Over 50% of day 2 of the most recent internationals for the Pokemon trading card game was Lugia Archeops. There were 55 Lugia Archeops in day 2. Let's talk about the meta. What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to CLEO's Network. Today we're talking about the meta game after LAIC's results and going into Toronto regionals, which if you're watching this, you're probably going to Toronto, or you're playing in online events this week, or you're going to locals or something, or you're like me and you love talking about the Pokemon trading card games, metagame, and analyzing it, and all of that fun stuff. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for daily Pokemon TCG content, leave a like and a comment, check out all of my great sponsors in the description down below, and while you're there, you might even join my Discord. There's a link down there. Come on in and join on the Pokemon discussion even further in the Discord. Now, obviously, we've got to talk about Lugia, right? Lugia is the new big bad from Silver Tempest. Toward Reklev won LAIC with a very consistency-focused Lugia V-Star Archeops build. But it wasn't just Tord, because Lucas Calza got second with it, John Ang got fourth, Pedro Bertucci, Charon Farah, Augustin Campo all got top 8 with it, and then there's 50 other people in day 2 as well with Lugia Archeops. So I think the first thing to determine here is the deck that good, or did a lot of people play it, or are those two things not exclusive and it could be both? If we look down the standings on the LimitlessTCG.com page for the Latin America International Championships, we will see plenty of big name players that we are used to seeing at these high placements, playing both Lugia and other decks. Grant Manley got third place playing Lost Box Mirage Gates. Sander Wojcik got top 8 playing Control. Ryan Antonucci got 12th playing Mew VMAX with double turbo energies. And Azul got 15th playing the same Lost Box Mirage Gates list that Grant played. And don't get it twisted, not just anybody can pick up Lugia V-Star and win this event. Tord Reklev, one of, if not the best player in the game right now, won the event with Lugia V-Star, and we had other very notable players piloting it to high success as well, such as John Ang at 4th place, Isaiah Bradner in 11th place, Julius Brunfelt in 16th, Ian Robb at 20th place, Natalie Millar at 24th place, and the list goes on. So while there were 47 players in day 2 not playing Lugia V-Star Archeops, the general player might be looking at this and thinking, I'm only going to play against Lugia going into the next event. Lugia V-Star Archeops was only about a quarter of the metagame for day 1 though, so there was 75% of the field playing other decks that you could and probably would run into. Now, we don't know what that meta share will look like in Toronto. Maybe Lugia V-Star will go up to 50% of day 1 like it was 50% of day 2, and half the decks you'll play against statistically will be Lugia V-Star. That's a possibility, but we could also look at experiences from LAIC, like this player shared on Burbank City on Facebook, showing that after playing 9 rounds of day 1 and 6 rounds in day 2, this player only encountered one single Lugia V-Star Archeops deck along the way. Now, don't get me wrong, there will be plenty of Lugia V-Star Archeops decks at Toronto. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes up from the 25% they had at LAIC to maybe 30 to 35% Lugia V-Star Archeops in day 1. But there are still plenty of other decks that you'll probably play against, like Lost Zone Box variants, Huron Palkia or Palkia Inteleon, Regigigas, Arceus variants, and Mew VMAX. So how do we prepare for the upcoming weekend's metagame, and how do we read this metagame to figure out what to do? Going into Toronto, statistically, I think the decks to worry about will be Lugia V-Star Archeops, which you did not need to watch this video to find out, Lost Zone Box decks with Mirage Gate, especially the Kyogre version, and Mew VMAX. Additionally, if you've already gotten yourself to feel comfortable against these 3 decks with whichever deck you plan on bringing, maybe consider the group of decks, the conglomerate of decks that will be the counter Lugia decks that don't exist elsewhere in the metagame on their own. So general decks playing Beedrill with Persist Sting, Arceus Duraludon, Vikavolt V Regieleki VMAX, and copycats of Sander Wojcik's Control deck. I would worry much less about those counter decks, but there will be some sort of counter meta forming to be aware of. But I don't think that is the main concern for you to practice against with your deck or to counter with your deck. Now, if you are playing Lugia V-Star, you might be scared of some of these counters, and that's fine. I do think the best way to go still is playing a very consistency focused list like Tord Reklev's, but maybe there are a couple of techs you'd like to include for the more obvious counter selections for the Lugia deck. Tord Reklev's list already has Dunsparce in it, so that covers lightning weakness, and it also has Manaphy, which covers bench damage. You could consider playing Amazing Rare Raikou yourself, which is what the Manaphy is mostly protecting against in addition to protecting you from the Kyogre from Celebrations, because Raikou could help against single prize decks that aren't expecting you to have a way to deal bench damage and won't bench their Manaphy, or you can boss that Manaphy up and knock it out with Stoutland for 2 prizes, and then carry on with your Raikou plan. I will note that I think Raikou is not very good against mirror matches because most mirror matches will be playing Dunsparce, Manaphy, or both, but it could help against the single prize decks. Another consideration is Big Parasol. Big Parasol will protect you from Cry of Destruction and also from Beedrill's Persist Sting. I'm skeptical of what just one Big Parasol could do for Lugia V-Star, and I also don't want to go up to 2 cutting other important cards for these Big Parasols. But if you're concerned about the Cry of Destruction Yveltal control decks and also Beedrill Persist Sting, I'd definitely say that one Big Parasol is a card to tech for those matchups, if those are the matchups that you want to prepare for. If you're hearing rumblings of Arceus Duraludon and you're afraid of that because Big Parasol will block your Amazing Rare Yveltal's Amazing Destruction from one-shotting the Duraludon, and Duraludon's ability stops all of your Pokemon from hitting it, you could play a second Lost Vacuum in your deck. Or you could play Echoing Horn, which will be more applicable to the general field and also help you against the Arceus Duraludon deck. Personally, I think Mew VMAX is not going to be a very good play this weekend because some of the things that counter Lugia V-Star, like Beedrill and Control, are also going to counter Mew VMAX decks. Palkia, Inteleon, and Kyurem Palkia are pretty much on nobody's radar right now as they fell off pretty hard, so you might be able to get away with playing one of those decks and not really facing a counter meta that's prepared for you. And of course we have the Lost Zone decks, which kind of exists somewhere in the middle of everything because they're so fluid and versatile. You can build these Lost Zone decks however you like. I do really love the Lost Zone Mirage Gate decks right now because of all of that extra tech space and versatility, but I still think Lost Box Sablezard can see some performances in this metagame. Something I want to urge you all to remember is that if you're already comfortable with a deck that you have learned, and you're uncomfortable with switching off to a deck that might be better poised for the metagame according to myself or other people on the internet, just remember to keep in mind your personal goals. If your goal is to make day 2, you can do that with pretty much any competitive deck, any top 10 to 20 deck, anything that you saw get day 2 at LAIC, anything that has been placing at events in the past month or so, you can day 2 with your comfort deck, so don't worry about switching off just because of something I said here. But if you are looking to top 16, top 8, or win the event, I do think that's really where these metagame analyses come into play. And also, they could even come to play in just getting that safe day 2 with a better statistical chance. But like I said, if you're already comfortable with Mew VMAX, just because I said it's not looking great into all the counter decks that might form against Lugia, that doesn't mean that 0 Mew VMAXs will make day 2. I'd guarantee that some Mew VMAXs will make day 2, and people will do well with the deck. I just don't think it's the best poised deck for this event. So I just wanted to clarify that. I don't want to scare anybody off of the decks that they've become comfortable with. I'm sure it comes as no surprise that I'll say Lugia V-Star Archeops should be the most popular deck at Toronto Regionals this upcoming weekend. But honestly, deck number 2, number 3, number 4, they're all kind of a toss-up. Will it be Regigigas, Mew VMAX, Lost Zone decks, or even a counter Lugia deck that comes in waves to this event? Let me know what you think in the comments down below about this currently developing metagame and what you're thinking about playing for Toronto if you want to share down below. Thanks so much for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.